everyone, it's Danny. Today we're going to discuss about a common occurrence that happens with orchids, unfortunately, and this is bud blast. For those of you who don't know, this means the yellowing and falling of the buds prior to reaching maturity and developing into a full flower. This usually happens because an orchid is suffering from a shock and has to divert energy to other things rather than the buds and flower production. So a lot of people are confronted with this, me included. So let's talk about what causes bud blast and maybe how we can avoid it. Now, the major reason, in my opinion, for bud blast is changing in the environment. And I'll give you a hypothetical situation. It's winter outside and you want to go for a walk, but you have to put on a lot of clothes to stay warm, so you have to prepare somehow. This is what happens with orchids as well. When something changes in their environment, whether it's temperature, light, or humidity, they have to adapt to that environment so they can ensure their survival and they can ensure they can produce healthy flowers which will be pollinated. If the environment changes, the orchid is diverting energy to adapting to that environment. So whatever energy was scheduled for the buds will be depleted. So it's very common that orchids will lose some buds, if not all of them. This is why sometimes when you buy an orchid from the store and you bring it home, especially if it's cold outside, you'll have a few buds dropping because the environment of the store is totally different from the one in your home. It's in many cases worse than the one you have, but the orchid is just not used to it. This doesn't really happen with flowers. They tend to be more sturdy because all the energy in opening the bud and developing it doesn't have to be directed to the flowers because they're already opened. This only happens with buds. Sometimes bud blast can happen with no apparent reason, as you're not changing the environment or the way you care for an orchid. Well, this is the time to worry slightly because something might be wrong with the root system and the health of the orchid actually. An orchid that is slightly suffering will try to divert energy into resolving the problem that makes it suffer. Whether you overwater it or the medium is going bad, this will trigger changes in the orchid because it's just like a chain reaction. If the medium is not proper, then the roots will not be able to breathe like they used to. So they will have to adapt. The orchid will try to produce aerial roots and so on. She will try to stay alive. But this usually takes a lot of energy and buds will be definitely affected. So if you're not sure why your orchid is losing buds, then you might want to check the roots and check the health of the orchid because you might have some slight problems there that you have to address in order to have good blooms. Now I'll give you some examples of how I lost buds. First of all, in transport, usually during the winter time, if I buy an orchid from the store and I take it outside where the temperature difference is sometimes even 20 degrees Celsius, the orchid will most probably lose some of the buds because she's going through the cold weather and she's slightly getting into this shock of temperature and doesn't know exactly what to do. Now, another reason I had bud blast is because I placed my orchid near my radiator and very hot currents came and changed the temperature around the buds and around the orchid. So again, she went into a state of shock, didn't know exactly what to do, how to adapt to that fluctuating environment, and that caused two of the terminal buds to drop. Either than that, I didn't experience bud blast, but it did happen that some of the orchids that weren't too healthy, I just purchased them, but they weren't very, very healthy. They didn't have such a long flower time, and yes, the spikes were not as vigorous and nice and sturdy as these guys are. So again, the major factors of bud blast are especially changes in the environment, temperature, and possibly light. And also, if you cannot find any environmental issues, then maybe you have a problem with the root system. Maybe you slightly overwatered it, or the medium is starting to go bad. So okay guys, thank you for watching this. I hope you found it helpful. I know that sometimes orchids do stuff that really we don't really understand, and we cannot really find the logic. But I've discovered they're really logic plants. Everything has a logical explanation. We sometimes don't have enough information to deduct that logical explanation, but that just means we need to read a bit more about how they grow in nature, or what traits we should take into account. Okay, if you want to see more videos, please subscribe to my channel, and if you want to leave me any questions, use the comment section below and I will get back to you. Thanks for watching again, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye!